the pandemic, as a cardiologist, an entity called myocarditis.
Right.
Muscle, cardio, heart, itis, inflammation. Inflammation of the heart muscle. In 40 years as a cardiologist, 15 years actively practicing many years ago, high volume of referrals, I saw one case of myocarditis in my life, in my professional career.
Wow. Yeah.
Now it's routine for many cardiologists to have a number of these patients on board. What happened?
Right.
What happened is we have two different diseases. Before the pandemic, before we had vaccines, before we had people who had chronic COVID, we had some people who were just unlucky enough to contract a virus that liked their heart.
Right.
Okay?
Sort of attack their heart.
Attack their heart,
It's a rare
inflame
event.
it. You get over it or you don't get over it. It wasn't a whole lot that medicine could do.
Right.
Okay? Either your immune system kicked in or it didn't. Now, that's all it was. Just simple and significant. Now we have a situation that's twofold. In the myocarditis of the pandemic, strictly mediated by spike protein, that's the part of the COVID pathogen that allows it to be inserted inside the cell
Right.
and then multiply. You have evidence that there's ongoing myocardial inflammation due to the spike protein, and also at the same time, ongoing inflammation of the blood vessels feeding the heart and elsewhere through the body,
Right.
causing an increased problem toward coagulability and blood clots. But the bottom line is, especially when you prolong this period when somebody has had chronic COVID, say, for months and even years now, more than a year, many people, they can have a certain degree of burnout. And they have a test that's very sensitive for myocarditis. When the muscles become inflamed, they release a little bit of a protein called troponin,
Right.
which is evidence of the heart muscle breaking down.
Right.
That should never be abnormal. And they already, by my observation, a lot of docs and cardiologists are sort of just not wanting to pay attention to these slight elevations of troponin. But these slight elevations of troponin, especially after somebody has been sick for an extended period of time, can indicate potentially a deadly degree of inflammation in a focal part of the heart that affects the conduction system.
Right.
And the problem is, heart cells are electrically active cells. And when you put them in a situation where they lose blood supply or they become inflamed, they become electrically unstable. And so, football player, pilot, you have stressful situations, a sudden surge of adrenaline or epinephrine, and next thing you know, that irritable pack of cells in the heart throw extra beats, and you could go in, you could have a benign abnormal heart rhythm, or you could have a deadly heart rhythm. So this needs to be paid attention to, in my professional opinion, not just the pilots, but I think everybody should get a troponin and a D-dimer and make doggone sure it's not abnormal, because there do exist a subset of people where they've pretty much come back to clinical normalcy, but they still have this low-grade myocarditis that needs to be knocked out completely. And by knocked out completely, I mean bring those tests back into the normal range.
Right.
And nobody should be satisfied with not knowing that it's either normal or that it's abnormal, and you bring it back to the normal range. And if you wasted your money and you had normal tests, great, because I'm afraid we have more crap down the road. And if something else comes up and you start feeling sick, you want to recheck those tests and see